So after keeping this reserves, the balance amount can be exhausted by the bank for the releasing of credit. When a customer approaches the bank with all legal documents and other requirements, the bank can grant loans and advances towards this customer. This is called a credit creation. This is called a credit creation. This is the last unit which we discussed in this session. After the completion of this session, our class will be come to an end. Commercial banking in India. When we look into the banking structure of India, we can see there is a central bank. There are some developmental banks. Then a lot of commercial banks are there, and a lot of cooperative banks are there. In addition to these banks, we can see the presence of rural banks, Exim Bank, and housing banks. Central bank means Reserve Bank of India is our central bank. It performs all the functions of central bank. It acts as a banker's bank, then a guide or philosopher to the government and custodian of the foreign reserve. And it arranges the facility for clearing house, and it monitors the function of credit creation. And the Reserve Bank of India issues currency notes in India. And in the structure, secondly, development banks will come. Developmental banks means those banks which provide long-term finance, particularly to industry. Okay. For example, Industrial Finance Corporation of India, Industrial Development Bank of India, SFCs, and ICIs are the major development banks in India. Third one is commercial banks. Nowadays, we can see the presence of lot of commercial banks. Some area we can see the presence of State Bank of India are there. And in another place of proximity to State Bank of India, we can see the presence of Punjab National Bank. Despite of these banks are still functioning there, we can see the presence of Canara banks are there, Union banks are there. Okay, these types of commercial banks. They provide a short-term, along with as well as long-term finance to business, trade, industry, agriculture, transport, everything for every purpose. Okay, commercial banks, we can classify the commercial banks as public sector banks, private sector banks, and foreign banks. Public sector banks include State Bank of India, along with its subsidiaries, and around 12 nationalized banks. Recently, within 2 to 3 years, a lot of public sector banks are merged. For example, Syndicate Bank is merged with the Canara Bank. Then Vijaya Bank, Indian Bank is merged with the Allahabad Bank. Okay, this type of activities. Okay, then private banks are non-nationalized banks. They are not supported by government. For example, Federal Asia Bank, Karnataka Bank, South Indian Bank, Federal Bank, etc. And the foreign banks like Citibank, Bank of America, Bank of Tokyo, British Bank of Middle East, etc. And another element in the banking sector is cooperative bank. Cooperative banks is an institution established on the basis of cooperative principles, and they are formed in Kerala under the Kerala State Cooperative Societies Act of 1969. And in the outside Kerala, they are formed under the registration of Indian Cooperative Societies Act of 1912. They also include the banking functions like uh, giving of loans and grants to business, agriculture, etc. They include industrial cooperative banks, state cooperative banks, district central banks, primary cooperative banks, etc. Next, rural banks. Rural banks are the banks. They are the exclusive banks to arrange finance for agriculture and rural activities. Regional rural banks are the major examples for rural banking. They are functioning with the support of NABARD. Okay, next is Exim Bank. They provide finance exclusively for export and import purpose. Nobody will get a loan from Exim banks except export and import purpose. And the last one is housing banks. Housing banks are those banks which provide finance for construction of houses, for the acquiring of plots, house repairs, etc. NHB, National Housing Bank, was established at apex level in the country to provide housing finance to commercial banks and other agencies. Next, we have to study the role of State Bank of India. Nowadays, State Bank of India it has become the largest nationalized bank in India. It has around 3,000 branches across the country and offshore banking units also. They do functions on behalf of government. They do treasury functions, they do other functions, and nowadays all the economic transactions, every forms of economic transactions are carried out by State Bank of India. They aimed at providing special facilities for the training of personnel, and most of their functions are in accordance with or incorporating with the RBI. Okay. They have a lot of branches in India. Major branches, state banks have major branches in India. They have a huge amount of deposits, and they have a huge amount of export finance. They are most of the government operations. They act as a lead bank, and they offer a lot of loan to small scale industries, uh, agriculture, education, and everything. Okay, they do perform or they do some activities like village adoption schemes. Then they acted as a financial and mortgage bank. Okay, they also do the merchant banking functions also. Next, the remarkable incident occurred in economic reforms of India. First one is nationalization of commercial banks. Nationalization means undertaking of a bank's assets and liabilities under the control of government of India. For the purpose of it, the government of India set up a commission, National Credit Control Council, on 22nd December 1967. And what are the arguments led to nationalization? First one is banks in India were owned and controlled by a few big shareholders. So Arguments for nationalization. Banks in India were owned and controlled by a few big shareholders and industries. They influenced the pattern of allocation of credit. So it may lead to looting of farmers or needy or the weaker section of the society. So this point create a concept among the government to uphold the weaker section of the society. So they moved to nationalize the banks. And the second point is banks used to grant loans only to the directors out of the deposits mobilized from the public. Third point, banks used to participate in speculative activities and antisocial activities in order to maximize profit. Okay. In case of a public welfare or a public state, the value of or the betterment of a state, bank do not think about profiteering, and they should not actively involve any anti-social activities in order to maximize the risk profits. But in the older days, the banks were performed these type of activities. This also led to nationalization. Banks provided credit to big industries and completely neglected small scale industry sectors. Bank did not finance the agriculture and allied activities through tail Indian economy was basically agriculture through the activities, even though the Indian economy was basically an agriculture economy. Banks credit flow was not in accordance with the priorities of 5-year plans and the policies of the government. There was no complete safety of the deposits of money. And we can see next as an arguments against nationalization. Nationalization of banks would result in reduction of efficiency. Perhaps it is right. Nationalization will generate monopolistic tendencies in banking industry, which would not be possible to control. And there were several other ways and means to eradicate malpractices rather than nationalized banks. Since the nationalization of banks was aimed at financing agriculture, weaker section of the society, etc., there would not be an security of funds for depositors. And nationalization involves huge burden in the form of paying the compensation to the shareholders. And finally, nationalization will not result in socialism, but result in state guarantees. Right. So, it was eventually felt that nationalization was necessary for the achievement of the objectives of social control, namely removal of the control by few, provision of adequate control to agriculture, small industry and exports, giving of professional bent to bank management, and encouragement to new class of enterprise. And next, what are the okay, dear students, you should expect so many questions from this area. So you have to clearly understand each and every time. Next, what are the objectives of bank nationalization? First one is to mobilize savings of the people to the maximum extent. Second one, to ensure that the banking operations are gated by larger social purpose. And third one, to ensure that the legitimate credit needs of private sector industry and trade and big. And the fourth objective is to ensure the needs of Thai productive sector and in particularly agriculture, small scale industry and self-employment sector. And the another objective is to actively foster the growth of new and progressive class of enterprise. And the final one is to curb the use of bank credit for the speculative and for other unproductive purposes. Then let us examine the banking developments since the nationalization. First one is we can see a lot of branch expansions are there. Then there is a growth in deposits. Then we get growth of credit expansion. Then growth of financial growth of farm credit, and the growth of financial small scale industry. But unfortunately, a lot of statistics given here are very outdated, very outdated, because some statistics or most of the statistics exhibited here are. That means the statistics given in the year, in the year, most of you didn't That means a borrow. Okay, fine. Then financing to other priority sectors. Then export credit, credit to weaker sections. Everything is here. Then next, problems of commercial banks in India. First one is problems in branch expansion. That means when a commercial bank wants to open its branch, there are some huge administrative expenses has to face by such banks. This is one of the problems is there. Then problems in deposit mobilization. Sometimes the bank may not generate the deposits as it was targeted by the bank. Then absence of coordination, inadequate finance to agriculture, inadequate banking facilities in rural areas, then regional imbalances, then low profitability, low efficiency, political pressure, then problems of liability policy, unfair competition, and problems in financing small scale. This is about the major problems faced by commercial banks in India. So our class is going to end next day or next week. We can discuss with another two topics. Okay, bye. By students. So you have to clearly understand regularly and thoroughly. And if you have any doubt, then you can ask in the next class. Okay, bye.